Okay, so we've got the 1981 Cypress Green 500 SLC on the hoist, and we have degreased it and cryoblasted it, and so we can go underneath. We'll do a detailed video. You know, this is the most important part, I think, of the presentation, because you really get a sense of, you know, what the car has gone through. So with any 1981 car, you know, you're looking for corrosion, you're looking for accident damage, you're looking for evidence of improper jacking, modifications, etc., etc. And you know, a clean undercarriage, well lit, will tell you an awful lot. So let's just start with the front valence. This lower rubber spoiler is unique to the 500s, and it can get chewed up, and this one isn't. And we've got this metal piece here. We can see some of the black has been sort of eroded off of it. Fog light lenses are uncracked. These are actually surprisingly expensive, and this lower grille is in good shape. Now, when I look at 107s, the SLs or the SLCs, what I find is that the condition of the fasteners is fairly illustrative, because when the car starts to rust, it's the fasteners that go first, okay? So that's something I look at, and happily all looks good there. You know, these pieces here are a little bit vulnerable. I've seen these banged up. If the car is driven on, you know, gravel, the leading edges of these lower A-arms will get chipped up and start to rust. And again, we're looking for corrosion on all of these fasteners. You know, a car driven in Calgary not that this was driven in the winter in Calgary, it was not. After 5 years, you can have these fasteners rusted on so that they won't come off with a wrench, and you need a torch or you need to cut them off. The corrosion is so vicious that we see cars in lug nuts all the time, and the owners having, you know, or the techs having a lot of trouble replacing suspension components because of rusted fasteners, okay? So to see a car here that's 40 years old and, you know, all this looks excellent, like really, really, really good, okay? So, you know, this car just has never been driven in the salt, okay? It started its life in Switzerland, I think till about, I have to go to my notes here, maybe 70 or 80,000 kilometers from memory. And then it came to Calgary. But you're not going to see fasteners look like that if the car is driven in the winter. And rusty fasteners are a colossal pain, because nothing wants to come apart, and it's just, everything is just miserable. So again, looking all through here, that is all looks good. There's no damage. There's no, you know, run over anything. The spoiler's intact. These lower frame pieces look good. 107s do have, I mean, when they were new, there was a recall for the subframe cracking, which was a warranty issue. So I don't, you know, there's no evidence that the subframe is damaged at all or cracked at all. It does not look like a 40-year-old car under here. Okay, so we can see that it got new front shocks. That I do have the maintenance receipt for that. I think that was in 05 or 06. We can look at the brake lines, because brakes on an old car are one thing that can be problematic. The calipers can seize and the lines can rust, and that's a big pain to make new brake lines. But I don't see any issues there, any corrosion. Even the backing plate for the brakes and so on looks excellent. Sometimes these cars will break the springs, so I don't see that, of course. So there's no clunking in the suspension. And really, it's exceptionally clean. Looking in the wheel well, and again, there's no rust, no damage. You know, the fasteners are in good shape. So I'm just not seeing anything, no leaking from the radiator. Okay, so all the front end really looks excellent. I gotta say, it does not look like a 40-year-old car. We can see. Let's go. So these cars, I mean, this is the proper, you know, jacking points for these cars. I guess we can see a bit of the rubber undercoating that has come off again from jacking. This is not where you want to jack a car. This is where the factory jack goes. But you can see this is common on these cars where they're jacked up on this pinch weld here, and then that's bent a little bit. So we see that. That one looks okay. And that one looks okay too. Well, just the front one. So looks like at some point in the car's life it was jacked up in the wrong place, and we see that. Okay, so that is there. Again, here are the brake lines, which look excellent, and they're all properly tied down, and so on. The exhaust looks pretty good. I mean, there's a little bit of surface corrosion on it. I believe this is all stock. The downpipes, there's this cross pipe here, goes to the no catalytic converter on this car because it's a Euro car, central resonator, and then back to the muffler. We can see there is a little bit more of some advanced corrosion on this rear muffler piece. And usually that's just condensation which collects in the bottom and eventually rusts through. And that happens for, you know, usually from non-use. If the muffler gets hot every day, it burns it off. Okay, so we got a little bit of rust on the muffler. It looks otherwise in really nice shape. Just again, a little bit of condensation collecting on the low part of the muffler, which does that. The well for the gas tank looks good. The rear tow eye doesn't look damaged. There's no damage underneath here. The fuel pump and the fuel filter, there's no leaks from that. Rear suspension, again, fasteners look excellent. No leaks from the differential. Again, the brake hoses look good. The bushings all look pretty good. We'll go to the front here and slip. The subframe bushings can go on these cars, so let's have a look at those. And that looks pretty good to me. There's no cracking there. And no cracking there. Okay, so those bushings look good. And I don't see any other. Let's try to get visuals of these suspension pieces here. Okay, so all that looks good. Let's go to the rear of the car again. And, you know, the springs aren't rusty, the springs aren't broken. There's no rust on any of the fasteners. Brake hoses look good. Everything looks properly routed, like it looks stock, like nobody's been in. No leaks from the differential. No damage. You know, if it runs over a rock or something, you can get you know, dents in the floor pans. So I don't see any of that. Corrosion on these cars will start, you know, with the jacking points in, you know, these areas here in the back will, you know, fill up with gunk and start to rust. These are pretty thin metal, and so you'll see corrosion in there first. And it's all very clean, so I don't see any corrosion. Even the fastener in there doesn't look too bad, and you know, like that'll come off with a wrench if you needed to come off. And many of them, there's no way, you'll just break off the nut. So you don't see any corrosion in any of these areas. And like I said, even the fasteners are still, if you can see that, still in decent shape, okay? And following it along, you know, the lip of the wheel arch, you know, obviously is susceptible to rock chips and rust as well. And so you can see, you know, on many cars that this area rusts, and we don't see any of that. So this texture is kind of the undercoating, which is underneath the paint. And so that's normal for that to be rough. But I see it's all intact and none of it's rusted. And again, the jacking point, there's no corrosion there. There's no corrosion on any of the structural bits of the car. Okay, so I think, you know, we can safely call this car, for all intent and purposes, a rust-free shell that looks perfectly straight. And the only flaw that I can find underneath the car is this area here, which has been, a jack has been put on it in the wrong place at some point. And this can be straightened. That's fairly easy, okay? Let's get you a visual of the underside of the fender. Okay, and now I'll get a light and we'll shine this up into the various nooks and crannies of the engine and just look for any signs of a leak. I know it does have a leak. I'm not sure where exactly it's coming from, somewhere near the back of the engine, but we can see what we can do to find that. We see that, let's try to get that there. That's the power steering pump. It's normal for those it's common for those to leak. And we can see a little bit of a leak anyway. There's no drips or anything like that, but we can see a little bit of sweating there. The bottom of the engine actually looks pretty good. I don't see anything there. And around the oil filter, I don't see anything. The back of the engine here, we do see the leak. Now I can't tell whether it's coming from the back or whether it's dripping down from above, but we do have, that's the power steering box up there, and we can see, look at that there, a little bit of a leak there, and that's the bottom of the, that's the bottom of the steering box. and it's a little bit wet here in the back. Nothing dripping on the exhaust manifolds. I don't see any gearbox leak. I don't see any leak from the differential on either side of that. But yeah, we do have a bit of an oil leak from this area. Now, it's been getting better, and the car hasn't been driven really regularly for the last 10 years. So I probably wouldn't address that right away, because I'd probably drive the car and see what happens to it, and it could very well become minimal or go away completely, or or not, and you might have to do something about it. But I would probably put 1,000 kilometers on the car before I made that call, because in the time that I've had it, the leak is decreasing, which makes me think or hopeful that the seal might swell up and stop on its own. That could be wishful thinking or not. That's just part of buying an old car. But anyway, I hope that we don't see any brake fluid leaks. There's no leaks from the shocks, but we see a little bit of sweating from the power steering reservoir, and a little bit of sweating from the steering box, and a little bit of wetness at the back of the engine, and otherwise, otherwise good. So I think that the new owner can expect to do some servicing to this car, given the fact that it really hasn't been driven, but the bones of the car and the undercarriage of the car is excellent. Okay, so I hope that was illustrative for you. When you have a body shell like this on a 107, it means you have great scope and latitude to do additional work to the car, because you'll always have a great body shell. And so even if you wanted to, make it the world's best 107 by taking the thing completely apart and rebuilding it nut and bolt and putting it in a museum, you can do that with a car with a great straight rust-free body shell. Whereas if a car has rusted and started to rust, it's from the inside out, and no matter what you do to the car, it's just going to always be a bad car. So this is a great original, unmolested, straight and rust-free car. That has, these cars were built for a lifetime, and so the first 40 years have seen virtually no degradation from the body shell. And so, this car happily be on the road for another 40 years, just with regular servicing and maintenance. Okay.